All right, I'm going to get going. Guys, my name is Andrew Bourget. I'm head of customer operations for ShipAngel. ShipAngel is a software company built with the idea of AI forward. We are building a rate manage. We have built a rate management platform to help BCOs move cargo internationally to help you manage all of your rates. And that's from air, ocean, and trucking. We do have some customers that even use it for rail rates. And so we have many different ways our customers can use the platform to manage their rates. What's really useful here is the ShipAngel platform was built with enterprise companies in mind. And so we have what's called SSO or single sign-on built right into the platform. And so if your teams are using Microsoft across your organization to get in and out of programs, we can also link in with your Microsoft SSO. If you use Google SSO or if you use anyone for SSO, we have the ability to link in and show you guys the same login screen and the same password that you're using across your organization. Additionally, the ShipAngel platform is mobile ready. And so everything you see here in this demo can also be completed on your cell phone. And so between meetings, you're on a plane, you're, in a meeting with your boss and he asks you a question, all of those features here in the platform can be viewable on your cell phone, right inside your mobile browser. And so it gives you access 24/7, 365, pretty much regardless of where you are. You can be at the beach, you can be at your desk, and you can always have access to the rates for your organization. Once you sign into the platform, what's super useful is the platform is geared, configurable for each user in the way they use the platform. And so you might have members of your finance team, you might have members of your operations team, you might have procurement. There could be a lot of different parts of the organization inside the system. And every user is going to be able to configure the system to what makes them able to do their job. And so this landing page is inside our search function. But you could change that setting and you could land in the My Routes section, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. You could land in documents. There's a couple different places you could land inside the application. Ultimately, each user can decide sort of their own journey based on the role that they have. Inside our settings page, you have the ability to change a lot of the important settings. If you have a specific currency that you're using, you might have teams in Europe, you might have teams in Asia, teams here in the US. They can all decide the currency that they want to see rates in. Additionally, you have the ability to change container size. You can change the default page, the landing page that we talked about. We can start to look at long-term versus short-term. If you were a short-term market shipper, and when you open up your rates and you want to be able to see very quickly your short-term rates versus your long-term rates, how do my rates compare versus the market? You can get all these settings done very quickly. Additionally, we have the ability to create and add users and roles very quickly. And so to add a new member of your team can take you, as little as 3 clicks, enter in their name, um, and you could enter in their role, and then boom, they can be added in as a user very quickly. You can take away access very quickly. If you wanted to remove access for someone who maybe is leaving the company, 1 click, boom, deactivate user. Additionally, what's super important is we have the ability to create roles. And so this is where that different parts of the organization are working inside the platform. Different teams may not need visibility to certain pieces of data. And so you may want to give your sales team access. And so the way it could look is maybe they only see the lowest rate, they only see the all-in number. They don't have the ability to export. They don't need to see rate benchmarking. They don't need to know who the shipper is. They don't need to know the surcharge breakdown. You can give visibility to the team globally in different departments based on what they need and not need to see inside the platform. And so the control is very much in you and your team's hands to decide what teams can see inside the platform. Once you've got your settings kind of set up, the most profound part of the ShipAngel platform is our search function. And this is going to give you that ability to search both in ocean, air, as well as trucking. Regardless of your rates or your rates can be here regardless of the modality. And what's interesting too is we can also attach door rates for drayage inside your ocean section. And so you might say, what's my move from warehouse to warehouse, door to door? we can show that card for you inside the ocean platform, or we can separate your ocean from your trucking and have your drayage rates live inside your trucking. Both visibilities give you and your team access to your rates to understand what your rates are. What's useful here is inside the platform, you can search by typing in the name. And so I can type in Shanghai, I can type in the port code, CNSHA, or if you're unsure of a specific port that you need, you could type in a broad country. And so I could put in China. Maybe I don't necessarily know which port in China I want to pick. Another way to look at this is your sales teams could be procuring cargo or they could be selling cargo. And they might say, I don't know where I'm going to source from, but I know I need to send stuff to Los Angeles. They could open up this filter and leave the from blank and just search for LA. This way they could decide what's my lowest cost into LA. Maybe I source this from Shanghai instead of Qingdao or instead of Vientiane, or maybe even I consider Malaysia or India instead of a specific origin. For the demo here, I'm going to use a New York City rate out of Shanghai to give you guys an example of what the search looks like. Here, let's start over. Once you search, you're going to get the ability to very quickly scroll through your results. And so here we got 5 results by searching, and you can very quickly scroll through your different providers to look at your different rates. Additionally, what you have the ability to do is on the left here, you could filter. And so you could filter down by a specific vendor. I only want to see my DSV rates. You could also filter down specific shippers. Say you have different business units that are operating inside the platform. I only want to find my banana cola rates as opposed to maybe my electronics rates. You could also filter down by equipment size, equipment type. And so if you have reefer, dry, NOR, flatbed, any kind of different commodities or types of equipment, you have the ability to narrow your search results down. Additionally, you could also filter by hazardous. I know I'm going to need to ship a hazardous on this lane. Let me filter down to hazardous so I only look at those hazardous. You have lots of options here to kind of narrow your results down. Inside the search results, you're going to get what we call our rate cards. And so you're going to get a lot of information presented to you front and center. You're going to get the provider here, it's CMA. The rate was uploaded on the 15th of May. It's valid until the end of March next year. The shipper is Banana Cola. This is our fictional shipper that we use to demo the platform. Additionally, you're going to get information, what are my all-in rates? My total per 40 foot, my total per 40 high cube. Hey, I got 45 rates. What is my total rate all in? You're going to get access to your service information. If your provider gives you that information, you're going to know, hey, I can book this on the Manhattan Bridge service for CMA. Additionally here, and this is where we start to really find the value inside this platform, is I have my 28-day transit time that CMA has given me. But then what you're seeing here is the Ship Angel logo. And what this tells you is the market for CMA from Shanghai to New York is actually 31 days based on actual transits. And so we build in a schedules tab here, which shows a couple different services and a couple different vessels for you and your team to evaluate ETD, ETA. Which ships can I actually get on if I needed to sail? And what are those transit times? And those transit times help you understand, is my transit time that CMA is giving me, is it fast or is it slow? We want you to utilize the platform with third-party data so that you get it closer to what does my rate mean versus just is my rate competitive or not. In this scenario, we can say, hey, your rate is actually a little bit faster than what the market is. That could present an opportunity, and you could say, hey, am I actually going to get 28 days if I ship with CMA? Or it could present you with the ability to go back to CMA and say, hey, you're telling me it's 28, it's really 31. We need to have a conversation. I need to properly build in my lead time. And so it can give you a lot of really good information up front. Additionally, here on the right, we give you access to your rate graphically. And so I can start to understand, okay, let's look at my 40-foot rate, my non-hazardous. I want to compare it against the market average long term over the last 6 months, for example. And from here, you can see my rate in green, how it compares to the rates in blue, which is the market average. And so we bring this in from a third party, and that third party could be any third party that you guys are interested in bringing in. And so there's a lot of third party benchmark companies when it comes to ocean rates. We bring in the data that you want and you already trust. And so you can very quickly understand, hey, my CMA rate here in June, it's about 34% lower than the market average. That's good. And what's really useful here and is you can start to scroll through and look at your rate cards, and very quickly you can see, hey, is this blue line above the green line? And when the blue line's above the green line, you know, hey, my rate in green is below the market average. And so you can give yourself sort of a quick view and a quick pat on the back based on where your rates are sitting. Additionally, inside the rate cards, we also give you access to your surcharges. And so we're going to give you the ability to list out your base rates and then all of the line item surcharges that go along with that rate. And so you might be evaluating providers not just on their total cost, but who has the lower bunker cost, who has the less, line item surcharges. And so we're going to list all of those out here for you to have access to. What's super useful is we also give you the ability to search in the past and in the future. And so the practicality of this is your finance team might be taking a look at invoices and going, hey, on May 8th, we got an invoice from CMA from Shanghai to New York. We want to validate some of these charges. And so I could pick May 8th, come to filters, filter down to CMA, and then from here I can say, okay, what was my bunker charge on May 8th? It was $179. And so you and the team are always going to have access to go back in time, as well as if you have rates filed into the future, you also have the ability to search in the future. And the practical of this is, hey, it's June 17th. What are my rates on July 1st? And you could search and hey, I have one rate on July 1st and it happens to be CMA. And this is what my rate is. It's just a little bit over $2,000. All of this visibility is inside this platform, gives you that ability to sort of understand what my rates were, what my rates are. Additionally, is if you have demurrage and detention inside the platform, you're going to have the ability to access that D&D. I'm just going to go back to current rates here. And show you guys a different rate card. And so detention and demurrage, if you have extended detention and demurrage for providers, whether it be at origin or destination, we're going to be able to list that here for you. Additionally, if you had special charges after the free time expires, you're going to have visibility to what that is right here inside the platform. Additionally, if you value CO2 and you want to pick a provider that has a lower CO2 footprint, we also give you that ability, should you choose, to evaluate your providers on CO2. We at ShipAngel are trying consistently to bring in as much third-party data through third parties. We actually bring in some API schedule data from some of the ocean carriers. We're trying to enrich your rates with as much information. So again, you can understand, what does my rate mean? Not just what is my rate or what is my transit time? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it competitive or is it not competitive versus the market? This search function replaces most organizations' Excel document that's flying around. There's 4 different versions. Do I have the most updated rates? No one's ever really sure, despite what they're reading on any, sort of document. Here, you as an organization can know, as my rates are updated, as I get new information, it gets uploaded, and everyone across the organization has visibility to what the rates are. What this is going to do is give you guys a lot of time back in your day, because no longer are 7 people going to come to you with 8 different questions every single day. What's my rate Shanghai to New York? What's my rate on this lane? Is this rate updated? All of this information is right here for them to work wherever they are, 365, 24/7, 365. Additionally, is we can also search for air shipments. And so inside the air rates tab here, we can start to figure out, okay, what are my air rates that I have access to? And so in this scenario, we're looking at a Bangkok to Los Angeles air rate. We're getting a lot of information up front, transit time, market graph, departure days, but also the weight graphs. And this one's useful here is if you're comparing provider to provider, but you don't necessarily know what the size of a shipment is, you could start to look and say, okay, greater than 300 kilos, it's 864 with DSV. Maybe I have a different rate from a different provider that similarly matches that lane. Additionally, in the surcharge section here, we give you the ability to compare these rates by charge break or weight break. And so if you wanted to look at a certain weight break that you believe your rate's going to move under, you'll have the ability to compare what's my all-in cost. And so based on greater than 300, it's $8.64. Additionally, if you know what that chargeable weight is going to be, in the top here, you could type in that 301 kilos. And what it's going to do is it's going to estimate this total cost now for you on the rate card. And so the practicality here is you might come in and say, okay, I'm going to ship from Bangkok to LAX. I'm going to click search. And now I'm going to compare at 301 kilos. What are my options? Well, I have a DSV rate here that is 864 a kilo, and I have a SIVA rate that's 1255 a kilo. But these are the two all-in costs that I should expect, 2,600 and 3,777. Very quickly, you're going to get the ability to understand what are my total all-in costs if I were to move on this shipment. And additionally, we also give you access to that third-party rate. And so you want to come in here and say, hey, is this rate competitive or not? In this scenario, it's about 55% higher than the market. And so you might use this to then go back to your provider and negotiate a little bit. Or you might say, hey, they do a lot of extra stuff for me. They're really good to me. I don't mind paying a higher rate because their service is better. It at least validates some of those decisions based on the data that you guys have inside the platform. Lastly, in the search section, there's also the trucking. And so in here, you can start to understand on my specific overland routes, whether it be a truck move or even a rail move or an intermodal move here in North America, you can start to say, hey, what are my costs in this scenario from Boston to San Francisco? Surcharges. Hey, I have a couple fees. I know what my fuel cost is. One of the challenges we see with road freight, especially here in North America, is the rates change every single week. And so as that DOE, Department of Energy, fuel cost changes each week, so will your ShipAngel platform to ensure that you capture what that most updated cost is, whether you're planning moves or you're trying to validate some previous shipments or previous invoices. The second most important part of the ShipAngel journey, if you will, is what we call our AI process. And so we pride ourselves as being an AI company in that we have built a proprietary in-house AI system that you could say is a four-walled system, meaning it's completely internal. We've built everything from scratch ourselves, and we use it to process all of your rate sheets that come in. And so your contracts from whatever provider in whatever format, PDFs, Excels, emails, API data. I always joke that you could take a picture of a rate on a cocktail napkin and send it to us, and we'll get it in the platform for you. And what our AI is going to do is read all of those origins, those destinations, the surcharges, the free time. It's going to organize it, process it, and get it uploaded to the platform for you guys to have visibility. What that means in practicality is you get a rate, you negotiate a rate at breakfast. By the time you sit down to lunch most days, you're going to have access to that rate inside your platform. And so that speed of upload is really unmatched with a lot of the other companies that we compete against. We process things very quickly, very accurately on a very large scale utilizing our AI system. This here is what we call our document section. Every rate sheet that you guys negotiate and upload is going to live right here in this document section. And what that's going to mean is you're going to get full visibility across your organization. Who's uploading rates? Who is negotiating rates? What are those rates? And if I find a problem with any of those rates, meaning something's not competitive or something's slower than it should be because that provider didn't give you a good enough rate, you can trace it backwards to understand, hey, this DSV rate, Charles uploaded it. It's valid until the end of June, but I want to look at that original rate. And so we give you the ability to download the original rate file. And so you can very quickly look at the original DSV file, or you can utilize what's called our amendment guard feature. And so every rate sheet that you upload, you're going to get the ability to click into it and understand, based on this rate sheet, how does it compare to my rates? And so in this scenario, this rate sheet is active. And so I'm comparing it against active rates, which it is in itself. But you can also go back and understand, hey, let's look at some previous documents that DSV may have uploaded. Let's go back to the May DSV rates. How do these rates compare? Well, in some of these scenarios, the rates are significantly different. You can see here under base rates, they've changed by over $900. When I scroll all the way to the right, you're going to see total all-in prices. You're going to see some significant jumps. These rates are specifically Asia import rates. And so they're spot rates on the Trans-Pacific trade, which I think most of us here probably are exposed to. This is going to give you a reality check on, hey, from May until June, my rates went up 30%. It was a $900 increase. On some of our East Coast lanes, we're already talking, $3,000-$4,000. This LA lane is north of $3,000. And so you're going to get that ability to look at all of your rate sheets in that amendment guard feature to really understand how things have changed and what rates you're negotiating. Additionally, we have the ability to look at things that are under review. And so you can set up different processes so that your rates either flow in right away. You send us the rates, we process them, we upload them to the platform for instant visibility, but also we can upload rate sheets as you are negotiating. And so you might negotiate with 4 different providers on a special project that you need to do, and you might upload those rate sheets to the Ship Angel system, or you might send them to us. And what we're going to do is list them here in this under review tab. And what this is going to give you that ability is to sort of see what rates do I need to approve. And so in this scenario, we're going to pop into this DSV second half of June rates. And so we might say, you know what? The market isn't moving in the same direction that DSV is. DSV is on this lane into New York City. They're 3,000, 4,000. I don't necessarily know if I agree with this. You can leave them in under review. You can even go back and decide, you know what? I'm going to reject these. And these will never make it into the system, and these won't be viewable for the rest of the organization. And so our under review section of our documents, or what we call amendment guard, gives you the ability to filter through all of your quotes, all of the amendments you're getting, to then sort of understand, okay, I quoted one lane to 5 different providers. Who's the lowest across these 5? Let me put that one into my system for the visibility across the organization, not all 5 that I may not use 4 of them. Just to give you guys a heads up, there is a questions section. It's called Q&A. If you guys have any questions as I go through the platform, please drop in a couple questions. Or if you just want to say, hey, you're doing a great job, feel free to drop a note there as well. Additionally, inside the Ship Angel platform, we have what's called the My Routes section. And so I like to call this sort of your greatest hits section. And so you can come in here and put in the 5, 10, 15. We even have one customer who's put in 100 different lanes inside the ocean rates section. And what this is going to give you the ability to is look, origin, destination, how is my rates here on the right, as noted by the cheapest and the fastest, how does that compare to the market average? Additionally, is I can filter this down to vendor, and now I can start to understand Antwerp to New York City. Okay, CMA is my lowest provider. Let me take a look at this rate sheet. Is this the one I want to move on? Has this number changed significantly in the last couple months? You guys are going to have that ability to very quickly, kind of from a high level, almost procurement macro view, how do we understand what's going on with my rates? Additionally, we also have that ability to do this in your air section. And so I very, very quickly can look at my rates and understand SEVA, DSV, how do they compare against each other in a proper apples to apples format, as well as how do they compare against the market average. All of this is very quickly accessible. I've actually done the math. It's about 7 to 10 seconds to go from user login to my routes to be able to click on and say, hey, how does my SEVA rate into Los Angeles, out of Vietnam compare? It's a little bit higher than DSV, and it's also a little bit higher than the market. Maybe I want to consider another option before choosing to ship on that. The last section that we give you the ability to utilize is what we call our dashboard section. And so very quickly you can come in and say, who are my rates with? And so in this scenario, our fictional shipper that we call Banana Cola has 104 active ocean rates. We also have 38 rates that in the next 30 days are expiring. Hey, I might want to come back and fix that here in the next couple of days. Additionally, you can start to see who are my providers and who are my active rates with. I have a lot of rates with a lot of providers, but this might be something we need to fix. Hapag-Lloyd is the same as HPL. Why do we have a Hanjin's rate? There's a reason for that in our system, and I'd love to show you guys on an additional demo, but we have the ability to very quickly understand from a high level, who are my rates with? Also, you can see, do I have rates that are under review? And so in this scenario, we have some CMA Q3 rates, as well as some DSV second half of June rates. And you can click on these to very quickly go to the amendment guard and decide, you know what? These DSV rates I need to approve. Let me get them approved. And from here, you just click on update status, approved, and boom, those get pushed into the platform for visibility across the organization. And you can also see that it's no longer in your under review section. The last part of our document section, our dashboard section, gives you the ability to search on any singular lane. And so when we're in our search function, we're trying to filter and comparing against rate cards and vendors. Here, we might choose a singular lane in search. And what it's going to do is allow us to compare one lane against the market graphically over time. And so I'm going to say, let's go to 40 foot. I'm going to do a standard dry, non-haz, market average, long-term rate. And I'm going to switch this to the last 6 months. And then when my system loads here, what you're going to see is graphically, how do my providers compare with the market? And so this is the market rate in blue. I could decide, let me put in a CMA rate and let me put in an MSC rate. How do they compare over time versus the market? But very much importantly, how do they compare against each other? Why is my CMA rate so much lower than my MSC rate? Maybe there's something missing, or maybe, hey, we need to talk to MSC and they need to get lower, or hey, we need to maybe not bother CMA because you know what? They're giving us some below market rates as well as below our other provider rates. This gives you the ability to understand your rates. And again, as I mentioned earlier, what does my rate mean? Not just what is my rate? Is it fast? Is it slow? Are they commercially, are they nice to deal with or not? It's very much how do my rates compare against each other. That's pretty much it within the Ship Angel platform. I'd love to talk to you guys about, getting a more deeper dive into the system. We have a lot of features and a lot of ways we can help you really manage your rates. One of them that I didn't touch on was our ability for us to search rates via our AI Copilot. And so in here, you could ask the system the many rates that you guys are essentially asking yourselves. I always say no one goes into their rates just to search for fun. Hey, what's my bunker cost today? I'm very curious for no reason other than just being curious. No one has time for that. You're always asking questions, looking for answers. And so our AI Copilot gives you the ability to very quickly say, hey, what is my lowest rate Shanghai to New York City? And you can very quickly get an answer. We did a couple questions here that came in. The learning curve. I'm going to argue the learning curve for the Ship Angel platform is actually pretty easy. It's really intuitive. There's no real gotchas. There's no real, oh, you have to click here before you do this. It's pretty simple. But what's really useful is on our onboarding process, we'll spend probably a couple hours together showing every team member, having them literally share their screen. Okay, you show me your screen, you search for a rate, you filter down to a surcharge. We're going to really teach you guys how to use this platform. It's not very difficult to use, but we're going to make sure that you know how to use it before you sort of get the keys to the card. Amendment Guard and the AI Copilot. What's really useful is Amendment Guard allows you to compare things apples to apples. And so inside the Amendment Guard section, you're going to get the ability to understand how do my rates compare. And also, I don't need to do this in DSV's format, or I don't need to do this in Kuninago's format. I do this in my format inside the Ship Angel platform. And so you can come in and say, hey, what is this lane, this rate? This is the difference, compared to active rates. If you wanted to get really cheeky, you could even compare DSV rates to other providers' rates as long as they had the same rates on the same lanes. And so you could say, hey, how do my DSV second half of June rates compare to my Kuninaga second half of June rates? And you can compare provider versus provider and also get the same answers. What's the difference? $375 more than the other provider. So you give that ability to really get away from spreadsheets, but also get into an apples versus apples format so that you're always looking at your version of the truth. We like to think of Ship Angel as that single source of truth platform for all of your international and domestic shipping rates so that anyone in the organization, they have a question about rates, boom, they just need to log in and look for that answer versus sending you an email, phone, call, meetings, Slacks, Teams messages. Everything is done inside the platform to give you a little bit more time in your day to manage and hopefully get better rates. There's plenty to do in international supply chain these days. Let's spend a little bit less time managing the rates and spend it on some better, higher value activities. That's all the time we got today. I was really excited to give this demo to you guys. Please reach out if you're interested in a more in-depth demo. If you wanted to maybe see what it would look like with your data inside the platform, we could also set up what we call a strategic demo. We're here to help. We're excited to kick off these live series every month. Next month, we're going to have another one. We'll probably dive into some new features inside the platform and start to really show you guys how this platform can make your lives a lot easier. I'm Andrew for Ship Angel, head of customer operations. I really look forward to talking with you all again in the future. Don't be a stranger. See you guys.